never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Well, g'day, beautiful people. How are you? Trust your Monday has travelled along as best as it probably could. Really well for some, mediocre for others, and we'll get on to a little bit of the mediocre in the not-too-distant future. We'll also get on to some of the very, very good things that happened today as well. Maybe one of those good things was you bought yourself a ticket in our lottery. If so, you have left us with only about 160, less than 160 tickets left to go. In fact, 157 tickets left to go in the draw number 5 for $750, or rather a 1 gram bar of Ainsley Bullion Gold, which today is worth slightly more than it was yesterday, just between you, me, and the gatepost. We'll get to what silver is worth today too. It's actually had a pretty good day. But if you would like to go and help us raise a few bucks for the Voice of Freedom and help out the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary, Sandy & Co., along the way, we could really use your help doing that, and we want to give you great things for doing it. $750, which I'm sure many of you will put to good use. And even better, that 1 gram bar of gold, which at the moment, I think, I haven't checked today, but it'll be around about $200 odd worth, is something really spectacular, and we're honoured to be able to give away. And we're only able to give it away because of people like you. Followers like you have donated this to us to give away so that we can help others like you. So I just think it's a wonderful thing, really wonderful way to help, and we hope to be able to do a bit more. Obviously, coming up very soon with our Voice of Freedom Byron Bob selection or collection, shoved in its little Vince printed packet. The VPP, didn't think of that. The Vince printed packet is going quite well. If you know, it's a slow process. It takes about 7 hours, he said, to make each one of these. I think he's up to 6 or 7 of them at the moment that are completed and ready to go. We will start filling those orders once he's got a few more, and we can send them all to me in a pack. We'll send them all out in one big go. If you would like one of those sets, they have 10 Byron Bobs in them, 10 1/10 of an ounce Byron Bobs. That means you've got a whole ounce of silver in there, which today broke through $60 per ounce. So $60 worth of silver, plus the little bit and pieces where got a bit of postage involved, getting it to me, getting it to you, and we've got a few costs to cover with the production of them. Obviously, that plastic stuff that Vince is printing up doesn't come out of thin air. So $100 is the price we're charging for those. If you want one, I'm going to sign and number them on the back. Vince seems to think that's an exciting idea. So if you're up for that, all good. I'll sign them and number them in the order that people have ordered them. So you won't be able to leap ahead and get one of, but because that's already been dedicated, if you like. But if you would like a copy or like some of those Byron Bob holders, or just even one of them, $100, and email me, carl@vofhq.com, or you could get Vince at vofhq.com too. He knows what we're doing with that in all regards. Good evening to everybody who is in the chat tonight. You may have seen the show this morning. It was just a very quick show to ask you to pray for Black Sheep's father. Now, I was talking to Paul early this morning. I've been talking to him across the weekend, and I spoke to him again just a little while ago, or communicated, at least we texted a little while ago. So his father is still with us at the moment and pushing through as best as can be expected. But Paul sent through a couple of pictures, and I thought I would just share those at the head of this show, just to let you know who Jeff is, and you know, the kind of that we're praying for. That's Jeff and Greta, Black Sheep's mum and dad, when they got married. Strapping sort of a Taswegian bloke. Jeff served in the Australian Navy. That's the HMAS Vampire that he spent time on, and he served in Malaysia and has the medals to prove it. God love him for that. When he got back out of the military service, he came home to Tasmania and got into the police force, of all places. And he spent the rest of his career there. That's them signing him off basically from his time there, and gave him a nice little plaque, wishing he and Greta a great retirement, which is lovely. He also worked for Risdon Prison and was a prison guard out there at a certain period in time too. Interestingly, he was in charge of the watch house when Martin Bryant was brought in after what happened down in Port Arthur. These are a couple of pictures a little more recent of Jeff. And unfortunately, in the last 12 months or so, he's been struck pretty solidly with Alzheimer's or dementia. And Black Sheep's been looking after him pretty much solo that whole time. Very little home help. Has been getting the odd little bit, I think, but for the longest time, he wasn't getting any. Maybe that wasn't because they didn't want to give it. He just didn't know he was eligible for it. But that sort of thing happens. And I did want to show this photo too. This is actually taken by Black Sheep of his dad. So he's very proud of this one. And Jeff does look very happy indeed. So if you can mention Jeff in your prayers tonight, that'd be awful. It means an awful lot to Black Sheep. Terrible amount. Also, I would like to show you something else that's radically different. It is this. This is a Yamaha generator that I was given. Unfortunately, I can't use it. It's an EF 7200E. Does that mean something to you? It has two plugs like that. They look really good. And you can see a key there. It has an electric start. The whole thing has done like maybe 8 hours work. Brand new. These are $3,100 odd. And I simply cannot use it. It's just too big in the bus. I can't even get it in the bus. That's at the point that I'm at. So I'm prepared to do you a deal, so to speak. This thing is big enough to run your house. It'll run all your lights, fridges, air conditioning, all that big, heavy stuff. If you want a big generator for the cataclysm when it comes, as long as you can keep a bit of fuel up to it. And this is really good on fuel. You get 14 and a half hours running out of it, cranked up with everything running on one tank. So, pretty good. Not that I know much about generators, but I thought that was pretty good. If you are interested, then email me, carl@vofhq.com, and make me an offer on it. I can't use it. I must get rid of it. That doesn't mean bend me over a post and do horrible things to me. Try and be fair. But I know the Voice of Family Freedom will, the Voice of Freedom family will always be fair. I'm thinking more about the shorts this will get cut into and the others that'll see it. But I'm very happy to entertain offers, but make them fair offers. And if it can go to somebody in the Voice of Freedom family and it can go cheaply because they need it, or it's going to make a difference in someone's life, please reach out to me. You'll have to come and get it unless you're close, but we will fix that. And maybe you can help me out. Maybe I can help somebody else out along the way. That would be the ultimate goal, after all. Speaking of ultimate goals, we'd all like to build our own wealth. And how? Well, we've been trying to teach you for the last 3 years at least about how to build your own wealth. And people who were listening to myself, Cass, Mary Jane, and others in the last 3 years have been able to build their wealth rather significantly. One of those blokes who never listened to a word I said was Jim Rickards, but he has been able to build a bit of a gathering by himself. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get him on the show, but Cass and Mary Jane were able to get to his recent show in Sydney, and Cass joins us now to bring us up to date with it. Good evening. How are you, madam?
Hi, Carl. How are you? I'm very good, thank you. I'm actually back.
So I'm excited. Silver went through $60 an ounce this morning, not long after opening. It did drop back under $60 an ounce about 1 o'clock, I think I saw. But now it's still sitting just under $60 at $59.91. I've got it at the moment. Oh no, $59.76. So it's dropped down a bit in the last 10 minutes. But we've historically seen these, peaks, and then they drop back a little bit. But silver has never dropped back and stayed back, has it? It's just kept on growing recently. So what did Jim Rickards have to say? Or maybe we should start out with who is Jim Rickards and why did you go to Sydney to see him?
Okay, so Jim Rickards, I have been following for, I think I'd have to even count back from 2012. How long is that? 13
years, 14 years?
Probably 15 years I've been following Jim Rickards. He used to, I won't go into the whole explanation of who he is. I think the one thing that caught my attention is that he used to be a financial advisor for the Pentagon and the US government, and he's been involved in US government policy for basically most of his career. He's quite an old man now. I won't insult him by saying how old he is, but he's been around for a very long time. And yeah, I think it was about 2012 I started reading all his books and listening to his podcasts. And I got into gold and silver back in 2012. And I had a quick look at what's happened since then. And the gold and silver I bought has gone up 100% since.
Wow.
Well, that's not that great a return because most of that all happened in the last 5 years. And just looking at the 1 year return on gold and silver has been 40% on both of them, roughly speaking. It's slightly different.
Yeah, right.
Calculated depending on the day, but 40% just in the last year. So what Jim predicted 12 years ago is really starting to come to fruition now. And there's a lot of reasons I've been following Jim, which will become apparent as I talk about things he said. So as soon as I saw that he was coming to Australia, I couldn't wait to go and see him. So we booked tickets, Mary Jane and I, and we raced off to Sydney and had a great night. Very well attended. There was a very large crowd. It was hosted by ABC Bullion, which, as everyone knows, we support Ainsley Bullion, not ABC Bullion. But anyway, they brought Jim to Australia, so I was keen to get there.
Yep.
I can explain the reasons also why the difference between ABC Bullion and Ainsley as we go through tonight. But anyway, so we went off to Sydney to see him, and it was a fantastic presentation. I was really excited to hear from the man himself, flesh. One thing I really liked is I noticed he was wearing a suit jacket and a suit shirt and jeans. So it's about presenting and knowing your audience. So obviously, Australia, you know the man himself, wore jeans and a jacket, rather than getting all dressed up in a suit. Anyway, so he had some really interesting takes on it all. So for people that have been watching me for a while, you'll know that I have been saying relentlessly that I believe there's a massive crash coming in the economy. And I've been saying this for 3 years. I am starting to sound like a broken record because that crash doesn't come, but I still believe it's coming. So, but anyway, Jim Rickards, his take on it, if you look at some of his podcasts, he also, and this is where I get a lot of my information, he also in his podcast says there's a major financial crash coming, 80% drop in the share market. But in this speech in Sydney last week, he didn't say that. And I don't know whether it was because he didn't want to be too much of a conspiracy theorist. He didn't want to be too much of an alarmist or a doom and gloomer, because he actually said Trump has got a plan, and he described it as a very coherent economic plan. That got me sitting on the edge of the seat going, okay, tell me more.
A very coherent economic plan.
Yeah, and for people that don't like Trump, to say that he's got a coherent plan might rub people the wrong way. But so Jim went on to explain that he's got this plan, and we've put it out in our newsletter. And for those of you that aren't on Freedom Financial Solutions newsletter, you might want to get on it, because we do send out good information. So we sent out a whole newsletter about this. He's got three parts to his plan, and according to Jim, he's going to save America. He's going to make America great again. Okay, so we all know that the deficit and the size of the debt is out of control in America, and that's what I've been using to say, well, the world can't go on the way it is. The Australian debt, the American debt, all the countries' debt, to who I don't know, must be the aliens, but they owe a lot of money. Countries owe a lot of money, and I've been saying probably for 20 years that the debt can't just keep going up. The US has hit the debt ceiling again and again and again,
But
and each
isn't it?
time, yeah,
It's not just hitting the debt ceiling, though. It's there is no ability to repay that debt foreseeable given the current economic solutions and the current way forward for America. Now, I heard something the other day. I don't know if he can do this, but it was suggested to me the other day that Donald Trump might just choose to revalue the gold in the American golden stockpile, say at Fort Knox or everything else. And I gather if you would revalue, what was it, 3,900 odd tons of gold on the world market, that would have an impact. That would impact on their debt level. It would lower it significantly, would it?
totally, because I can't explain. That's beyond me to explain that. But what it would do to gold is skyrocket. But before we get to that, so let's go back to what Jim's saying. He's saying Trump's got a plan. And what he's saying is that this plan has been, it's not a new plan. It was quite a funny slide. He had a meme about tariffs, baby tariffs, because tariffs have been around for a very long time. And apparently that is what made America great in the first place. There was the US presidents, just have to read them here, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and a whole lot of other ones he had up on the slide, made America great by tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. So what Trump is doing is something new. People around the world may be jumping up and down about the tariffs, but it was what was used to make America great in the first place. What Jim said, and what surprised me, was that, as we know, the US debt is out of control. And Jim said that's not going down. It's not going down anytime soon. And it doesn't have to go down. Which I went, well, hang on a sec, why is that? But the way Jim explained it was really, really crucial. So he gave a really simple example. Let's say you owe $50,000 on a credit card. Is that a lot? Depends.
It's relative.
It's
It'd
relative.
kill me.
If you only make $50,000 a year and the interest rate is 20%, you're going to go bankrupt. But if you earn $500,000 a year, you can just pay that off every month. Who cares? So it's all relative. So in terms of the US debt, he's saying it's all relative. So if Trump, and through his tariffs, drives growth and increases the GDP, which is basically what a country outputs for the year, if Trump's and the tariffs and everything else he's doing increases the growth, well, then the debt relative to GDP comes down. So what Jim said is the debt's not going away, but the percentage to GDP will come down with Trump's plan. So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong about the financial collapse, or maybe Jim Rickards was just being very conservative in his audience. Who knows?
Okay, so let's take the scenario that Trump decides to revalue gold. That, let's say, removes 2/3 of the trillion, what is it, $300+ trillion worth of debt they're running at the moment. That would remove 2/3 of it. Would they pay for that out of that gold? Would that go to like a debt, wherever they owe that money, transferred in gold? Or is this just another play on paper?
Well, that's a fantastic question, Carl, because it's something that's always bothered me. My good old dad, and it was slightly brought tears to my eyes talking about Black Sheep's dad, because I lost my dad in the last year, and he was an accountant like me, probably where I got some of my inspiration from. And we used to talk about it. Him as an accountant, me as an accountant. It's like, okay, well, if US owe this, Australia owes this, who do we owe it to? The whole world is in debt. Who to? The aliens? Like, there is no, as an accountant, there's debits and credits. And if a country owes money, then they owe it to somebody. Who do they owe it to? So in terms of whether they revalue the gold and pay it off to who, I don't know. It's a bit beyond me. And as I've said in the previous podcasts, I've done deep dives into the Australian budget, for example, the debits and credits, the income, the outgoing, and there's a whole lot of lines that just say NFP, not for public release. So can I just be absolutely honest here and just go, it's all bullshit anyway. It's all bullshit. The government accounts, everything that they put out there, it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
So who they're going to pay off if they revalue the gold, I don't know. But what I do know is that it will cause the gold price to absolutely skyrocket. And here's another quote from Jim. So he says, and this is directly from his speech, from 1971, which, yeah, is a year that I am familiar with, to 1980, the US dollar fell by 95.6%, measured by the weight of gold. So that's the dollar collapse. The dollar has already collapsed. And all of the currencies are in the same boat. They're all going to sink or swim. What he then went on to say is that if that same thing happened again, that same dollar collapse happened again, gold would be 100,000 per ounce.
Wow.
So I have heard Jim Rickards say gold will go to 6,000 an ounce. I've heard him say it will go to 10,000 an ounce. I have heard him say it will go to 15,000 an ounce. This is US dollars. 100,000 an ounce. He then went on to say, don't quote me, don't say Jim Rickards said this, but I'm telling you what Jim Rickards said. He said, direct quote, if you had to replay the 70s, gold would go to 100,000 an ounce. So I'm not saying it's going to go to that, but I am saying it is going to go up absolutely significantly.
Now, while we get very excited about the thought of, 5 and 6 figure or 6-digit numbers in our per ounce reserves, how long are the prices likely to stay there? Because there'll be people like me who have 2 and 6 bits of silver flocking to Ainsley Bullion to try and cash it in. And would that be the right way to do things? Because will our economy actually be working on whatever I'm cashing it in to?
Look, the likes of you and me and the people watching here, I'm sorry to say it, but we are nothing. We are nothing. Us racing in and cashing in our gold and silver will have no effect on the market whatsoever. The big players are the government, China, Russia, all of the reserves are stocking up on gold and silver in a massive way, and they are the market movers, not us.
So what does this do for people with self-managed super funds and people considering retirement? They're coming up, being able to get their big super money out of big super. What very confusing time. What would you suggest for people to do with this? Pay off debt or put it into gold and silver?
Well, I think everyone knows what I'm going to say to that because I've been saying it for so long. Obviously gold and silver is the way to go. Get into it as soon as you can because basically cash is trash. Gold is GovCo, as we like to call them, they can't print gold. They can print cash, and they're continuing to do so over and over and over again. So getting to gold and silver because it's a physical asset that they can't just print and carry on with. But going back, let's go back because that's what we're here to talk about tonight to Jim Rickards and some of his quotes. So I've got some quotes here, and for those of you that don't know Jim Rickards, I do encourage you to look him up and just have a look. Sometime on if you go into YouTube and search him up, he's got hour-long podcasts. He's also got 10-minute podcasts. Depending on your appetite for this sort of stuff, look at the 10 minutes or look at the 1 hour. But just some of the quotes that I took down. As I said, I was a bit of a weirdo. I was sitting on the edge of my seat listening to him. I couldn't wait to get up and get a photo with him. But so let me give you some of the quotes. He talked about the globalists and neoconservatives, the neocons. He said they don't care about democracy, autocracy, dictatorship or wars. They don't care about any of that. What they care about is encasing the world in multilateral institutions like the IMF, the World Bank, the World Trade Organization, and the United Nations as a way of controlling the world. We know that. Trump is blowing that up. I like that quote.
I like that.
He went on to say, all Trump is doing is creating American System 2.0. He's going back to what worked for 200 years, what made America great in the first place.
So does this give you any warm, fuzzy feelings when I say the words Nasara Jasara to you?
As you know, Carl, I got into that for quite a while, and then I've sort of given up, sort of holding my breath. How long can you wait? But who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
Well, given the oblique hints that Jim seems to be putting out in some of those quotes, if it wasn't that, given your experience with, numbers, what would it be? What do you think it could be?
I think more what Trump was getting at is that, what Rickards was getting at was that, and he said it over and over again, Trump's all about America. He doesn't care what's happening in the rest of the world. He doesn't care what his policies do to the rest of the world. And some of that got a little bit scary when he was talking about that. He was talking about that countries are basically going onto a traffic light system. I haven't got this written down, so I have to go from memory. But green, orange and red. And green were the countries that accepted the tariffs and just ran with them and kept cooperating with the US. Orange were those that were like a little bit questioning and a little bit resistant. Red were those who objected to the tariffs and did things like devalue the US currency. Those would be on the red list. And yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, Jim Rickards actually mentioned nuclear war and where this may all end up if countries like China and Russia go on the red list. That was a little bit scary. So in terms of Nasara Jasara, Jim really didn't touch on that. He's more saying that America's just going to do what America does, which is look after itself, be very, very selfish in the world and look after itself. And those countries that don't play along, and as we know, Australia does play along with the US, those countries that don't play along are in for a really big wake-up call.
Somebody said in the chat earlier that in part tariffs are meant to force Americans back to work, back into manufacturing. If America grows and this whole, make America great again ethos, as you've just said, Australia tends to tag along on the back of. Can you see that this might breathe, not obviously under the current elbow sleazy moron, but under people who actually want to get the country going again? Could you see breath being put back into our manufacturing industry at all?
I don't know if what Trump's doing will affect Australia like that, but obviously that is what Trump is trying to do to America. Get back into supplying their own product and their own manufacturing and stop importing from other countries. And yeah, if Australia, let's not get into Australian politics, we'll be here all night. But yes, if Australia really should get back into its own manufacturing, look after itself. I mean, it's not going to do it under the current government. We all know that.
No, I would agree. The reason I brought up Nasara Jasara is because Barron Trump started tweeting over the weekend, and that's what he started tweeting about, Nasara Jasara. I haven't seen the blue tick. Maybe it's not Barron Trump. However, there were a couple of others that did pop up. Mr. Poole seems to have returned back again, once again, talking about all things, related to finance and secret military deals and the Il Trumpo that you see in there, Il Donaldo Trumpo, I think is a channel that has actually delivered quite a lot of very accurate information. So whether or not that's actually who it says it is or not, I don't know. But they are referring in all of those messages to Nasara Jasara or something akin to it. So Once again, we've heard about this for how many years now, and I'm a bit like you. We've heard it and heard it and heard it and heard it. We will need to see something. We'd like to see arrests too. That'd be great. But we'll wait and pray, because I guess that's all we can do. It's Monday night. You've probably got a yoga class to go to, or bend yourself into a pretzel shape somewhere. So I'll let you go. I know that this Jim Rickards thing meant a lot, and people can catch up with his podcasts, you say, and I've only listened to a couple of short ones, I'll be honest, but I did find them very, very easy to understand. They didn't get too highbrow into finance learning as some of these things can for me and just lose me. So, I would highly recommend that.
Yeah, before I go, Carl, I'll just get another one or two quotes from Jim from that night, because, I really was impressed by him. And what you say is correct. He makes very complex topics simple to understand. And at that night, there was quite a few other presenters, and the first two presenters, and sorry if anyone's listening to this, that was, presented that night, but the first two presenters, I'm just sitting there going, have I lost my brains or something? Because I don't understand a word they're saying. But then when Jim hopped on, he just speaks. He speaks just common, plain English. And so we understood all of that. But what I did understand of some of the other presentations, one was from a gold producer, or the CEO of one of the major gold mining companies. And he gave some very impressive slides on how gold manufacturing is becoming so much harder. So obviously with the wages in Australia keep going up and up, the cost of machinery, the cost of fuel, the cost of everything else in Australia, as we all know, the cost of living is killing us all, but the cost of running a company is also killing the companies. So he was giving all the statistics on the gold mining and how much it's slowing down and how less gold they're pulling out of the earth. And for anyone that knows anything about economics, it's all about demand and supply. And the demand for gold is going up because all of the countries, Russia and China and all of the countries, are buying gold and filling up their reserves. And then at the same time, they're getting less and less gold out of the earth. So, I mean, that once again is demand and supply will push gold up and up and up. So the central banks around the world have gone from net sellers to net buyers since 2010. They've just been buying. But gold production has been very flat for the last 6 years, if not declining. So Russia and China have tripled their gold reserves. So you have some big countries there buying a lot of gold. So once again, as we lead into this, people wonder, some people have told me that, I'm just flogging gold. Well, yeah, but I don't actually make any money out of flogging gold. I don't sell gold, and I don't get anything out of Ainsley Bullion or any other gold supplier. I categorically said, no, I will not take commissions, because then people, won't believe what I'm saying, because I'm no longer independent. I don't get anything out of by telling people to buy gold, other than my clients thanking me again and again and again because of the wealth they've created. We've got a lot of clients that have set up self-managed super funds and put all their super into gold, and it has, on my calculations I did today, doubled over 5 years and gone up 40% just in this year. So I don't get anything out of recommending gold other than the appreciation of my clients who I've got into gold over these years. So,
and those who've got into silver are over 60% up this year. So, it's staggering. I've had people who've contacted me and said, we were never in it before you started talking about it, and now we're in it, and they've got the glint in their eye and they've started stacking, and they cannot believe that in 3 years, what wealth they would have had thrown away in a bank, essentially making next to no interest, they've ploughed that, which is essentially about $10,000. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's essentially what they've ploughed in 3 years ago and two and a bit years ago, and now it's worth nearly triple what they put into it.
Absolutely.
They're staggered. And No bank has given them that kind of a return on their savings.
Yeah, and I've got a quote here that I just love. Gold, the people's money.
Yeah.
Because it's not in the bank, it's not the government's. The government can't print gold. Gold is the people's money. And
I noticed there's some pushback in the press recently about trading in gold and silver, and it's not allowed, and the government did that for a reason, and blah blah blah. That's probably on the back of, I think it's 5 or 7 states in America now have come out and said gold and silver can be traded over the counter for whatever good or service you want.
wow, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And and it's funny, like all the banks around the world, they're buying gold. At the same time, they're telling us to trust the money in the bank, yet they're buying gold. Like, what's the con here?
Yeah.
The banks themselves are buying the gold by telling us to put our money in their bank. All makes
and then encouraging us to borrow against it. Wouldn't that be right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the final word I want to say on Jim Rickards, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. I doubt he's going to listen to this podcast anyway. One thing Jim didn't say on the night, but I know about Jim, is that Jim Rickards, someone noticed said in the comments, who is Jim? Jim Rickards. Just Google him. He'll come up over it. He is very well known across the world. But he is anti-vax, he is anti-COVID, he is anti-government, he is anti-establishment. Obviously he wasn't. He worked for the Pentagon. He worked as a financial advisor for the government for, I don't know, he's in his 70s. So I would say he's worked for the government for, say, 20, 30, maybe even longer years. I haven't studied his whole resume. But he knows a lot about the government systems and the US in particular. And he is completely anti-COVID, anti-climate change, anti-everything. He's 100% on our page. He didn't say all that night in Sydney because obviously he was talking to a big audience. He had to be more conservative. But if you listen to his podcast, he absolutely makes it clear that everything that's gone on over the last 5 years is all designed for the destruction of the financial system.
Yeah. And it was a good turnout too. He has quite a large following in Australia.
Yeah, I can't imagine he would, and around the world, I believe. He's fantastic. Have a listen to him. As I said, he really puts it in really easy to understand terms, and worth listening to. The last thing he said that I think is worth noting is he was talking about BRICS, not bricks and mortar, but the BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China financial system that I have been thinking might come in and crush the US dollar. He says he doesn't believe that's going to happen. His quote is, there's not going to be a BRICS currency anytime soon. 10 years, maybe, but I doubt ever. That's his quote. Because he said they already have a global currency and it's called gold. Which is true.
And that's sort of what BRICS is all about, though, isn't it? It's the level playing field that gold brings. So I think they're trying to put the Chinese yuan forward as the new global standard if America's dollar fails, or has failed, but if it collapses. I believe the Chinese yuan is meant to be the new gold standard. Yeah,
I think Putin might have something to say about that.
I would have thought too, but...
Which is probably why Jim's saying it's never going to happen, because you're not going to have Putin and Jinping agree on that. But the one thing they do agree upon is gold as the standard. Yeah. So it does. And then it was the first time that dawned on me. You really don't need a BRICS currency if everyone's just measuring in gold. Which then comes back to what you said earlier about the US revaluing gold.
Yeah.
It's all very hard to understand, but all I know from my limited understanding of these issues is that it just all points in one direction for gold and silver.
And you hope silver follows it. Well,
silver always follows. It's always a catch-up game. Gold goes up and then silver eventually does a skyrocket catch-up, which seems to be what's happening now, which is, absolutely fantastic. think I've been saying that for quite a long time. I've said to all my clients, I used to do a 75% gold, 25% silver type ratio, but more recently I've done a 50-50 ratio, as in 50% in gold, 50% in silver, waiting for that silver catch up. And so anyone that's like done that, as I said, I'm not an advisor, that's just my opinion, but anyone who's done that is seeing some great returns in silver. And it will come a time when the silver to gold ratio sort of becomes a bit more even, that maybe you want to sell silver and go back into gold. But that time is not yet. Silver's still got a long way to go.
Speaking of bricks, before I let you go, I haven't got the photo, and I don't know that you'd be able to bring it up quickly, but you were hanging on to one hell of a brick at that Jim Rickards meeting. Do you want to tell people about it?
Yeah, you can't bring up the photo.
No, I haven't.
But yeah, I got to hold a 12.5 kilo brick of gold.
Wow.
Which was a $2 million brick of gold. And at the presentation, they had these little tower things, and they had a stack of those bricks.
Oh, wow.
So I looked at the tower and I'm like, $10 million sitting right there and right there. And they also had the Melbourne Cup, which I didn't know. The Melbourne Cup is made out of solid gold.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so the producer of gold, I think it was some Western Australian mine, was there presenting, and they had the cup there, and they had let people take photos of the cup. And I could not imagine what that's worth.
No, yeah, you don't see them coming up on the second-hand market, put it that way.
No.
Not at all. All right. Well, look, thanks for taking the time tonight, Cass, to bring us up to date on what Jim Rickards had to say. And as always, if people want to hear more about gold, silver, and maybe getting your own self-managed super fund, Freedom Financial Solutions are the people to talk to. How do people find you?
Freedom Financial Solutions, Freedom FFS. Freedom for Fred's sake.
.com.au if you're looking for a website, folks. That'll be the easiest way to get there. All right. Thanks very much, Cass, and look forward to having you on next time. I'm not sure what we're going to chat about. Mary Jane comes up with some amazing topics, though. So
I know what we have to talk about, and we would have talked about it tonight if we had time. But yeah, these crazy taxes.
Oh, do you want to touch on it quickly before you go?
Yeah, for sure.
How much truth is there to the fact that they're going to rent out or tax you for having a spare room in your house?
Yeah, like I've just been watching the taxes. They're like, we all know, we've talked about the tax on the $3 million more in super, the unrealised gains tax, which still hasn't got through, and I don't know if it will. But they've come up with so many crazy taxes. The taxes on the electric vehicles, which I didn't really look into because it's like, well, serve yourself right for
have an electric vehicle.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that. But anyway, so I didn't get excited about that one. But the more recent ones have come up about taxing a bedroom. So if you have spare bedrooms that you don't rent out, you're going to get taxed. And that is, it's not even. My mother, I think of my mother who's got a 4-bedroom house. She's been in that house for since I was a child, so 30, 40 years. She has spare bedrooms, which she uses for the grandchildren when she babysits, and for me when I go to Canberra. And she lives by herself. She's lived by herself now since her husband passed for like the last 5-6 years. Should she really have to rent out those bedrooms to complete strangers to avoid a tax? Like,
I know.
The government is getting out of control. If these things, like seriously, we've all been waiting for Australians to stand up. If Australians can see this and not stand up, well, there's no hope. There's no hope for us. But it seems from, and let's not get on to the topic of the rallies, we'll save that for another day.
Okay.
But honestly, Australians have to stand up. Like, where are we going to go with these? What are they going to tax next? Oh, have you heard about the view tax? There's a view tax in Queensland. Have you heard about that one?
Yes, that's anything above 10 stories. I think it gets higher and higher the higher you go. Above 30 stories, it's it's quite an exuberant tax.
Yeah, if you have a view.
Exorbitant. Yeah.
And what do you, can you apply for an exemption if you're blind or if you're like short-sighted or something? Like,
Well, no, what qualifies as the view? Because I've lived on the beach in Surfers Paradise in a couple of different high rises. I've lived at the 17th level. I've lived at the 30th level. The view on the 30th level, when you're on the beach side, is magnificent. If you happen to be facing the hinterland, well, it's not the beach view. It's a much lesser.
Or you might be facing another building and have no view at all.
Or you could be looking straight into another building. Exactly. So which room gets to pay the view tax? Well, they don't break that up. It's more a wealth-based thing. They assume that people living 30 floors above are much more wealthy than the ones living below the 30th floor. So, and I believe it cuts in above the 10th floor on a gradient scale of how good the view is from 10 to whatever height your building is.
So. It's ridiculous. And they've also floated bringing in a death tax and also removing the capital gains tax exemption on the family home. So they are looking at grabbing every single cent off us that they can.
And you and I have just completed a series of things which people will start seeing popping up on the internet shortly about trusts, but Jim Chalmers seems to be going after trusts as well.
They'll go after everything they can. And as I said, when is it going to be when Australians stand up and say enough's enough?
Well, they have an opportunity to do that on the 31st and to stand up and march for Australia. It like I keep saying, it's not about the immigrants. The immigration is part one of the problem, but the cause of the problem is the government that doesn't listen to the people of this country. Do not ever lose sight of the fact that if you're going to go and march on the 31st, you should be marching for Australia, the Australia you grew up in, the morals, the Christian Western democracy that we have been since our inception, and that's. We're just good blokes, good chicks. We want everybody to have a fair go. And this government is doing everything except give its own people a fair go. So if you're happy to go and march for that this weekend, get into it. Thanks, Cass.
No worries at all. Talk soon.
Guru and Freedom Financial Solutions or freedomffs.com.au is the place to go and check out Mary Jane, and the team will be able to help you out if you're looking for self-managed super fund. And interestingly, they are, and we spoke about it in one or two shows ago about estate planning. Look into that. I've had calls in the last couple of weeks to just run into different people who've had a need for that kind of thing. And I'm not sure if they've followed through and gone through onto Mary Jane and had a chat, but I highly advise them to, because there are such pitfalls. If you missed that show, go back last week or the week before and have a look, because it will bring you up to speed with just another one of the services that are available to you through Freedom Financial Solutions and the team online, freedomffs.com.au. I can see you're all pretty lively in the chat, Putrid Grubberman. Hey, J1, congratulations to your kids playing in the grand final this weekend. I went out yesterday and caught up with a mate of mine who, an old radio mate who I haven't seen in too long. I've neglected the family for too long. And his daughter is playing for Burleigh in the under-17s AFL or AFLW. And I went along yesterday to watch the game. It was the preliminary final, the qualifier, if you like, for the grand final. And bugger me dead, at the end of the first quarter, it didn't look like the girls were going to do terribly well, I'll be honest. They were playing Tweed Coast, and Tweed Coast came out strong, kicked 3 goals in the first quarter to Burleigh's 1. However, in the second and third quarter, I don't know what the coach said at quarter time, but boy, set Burleigh on fire. And anyway, kicked away, won by 60-odd points in the end. It was a bit of a flogging, unfortunately, for the girls from Tweed Coast. But they're off to the grand final this week, so I might have to wind up going off and seeing that on Sunday as well. And barrack for Holly and the team as they run out on the ground. I'm just having a bit of a scan down here to see if there is, and I'm sure there is plenty of stuff I've missed. Do you want to bring back the banter? What are you talking about, Sandy? I've missed so much. I've got to scroll back up. How much? Ukraine. Oh, yeah. How much money have we wasted on Ukraine? I think we're up to close to $600 million now. We've given them a whole heap of tanks recently, and we keep pumping out Bushmasters. But we are selling some of those Bushmasters to other countries, believe it or not. It's quite useful. A bunch of people got together in a place called Monday, which is out near Broken Hill, last weekend, I believe it was. And they did this for Beyond Blue. Ordinarily, I wouldn't, not because I don't like talking about depression, but I don't like talking about Beyond Blue because that red-headed clown, I think, is still the patron or the president or has something to do with it. And she makes me sick. But a whole heap of people went up to Monday outside of Broken Hill and formed what I think is without doubt one of the best maps of Australia, Tasmania, and the other little islands floating around in Bass Strait that I have ever seen. I think there is over 10,000 people involved in that gathering, and every last one of you should be commended. They've come from all over Australia, probably making their way back now over dirt tracks as well as bitumen. But bloody tremendous effort, and getting together and all wearing blue. Really spectacular indeed. I can see that Black Sheep has popped in, and obviously thanks you guys for keeping his dad in your prayers over the next days as, what we expect will be a comfortable transition occurs. Tomorrow, I'm going to make every crack at giving it a go in the breakfast, but I'll be back here tomorrow night regardless, one way or the other. Vince and I have been chatting. If I am going to do a breakfast show, we've got to keep two going for a little while until I can't do any more at any rate. That will happen over the course of the next couple of weeks, simply because it will be much easier for me to do a breakfast show than it will be to do an evening show. There is a lot going on in my life at the moment, and selling that generator will be part of it. In fact, if you are, I haven't got photos, but I can have them for tomorrow night. I have three caravans here at different price levels that we've got to sell as well. Two smaller caravans, 21 and 23 foot from memory, neat, tidy, clean. One's 11,000, one's 7,000. And one needs a little bit of work, and I mean only a little bit of work. It needs a new door latch, and that's about it. And the other one probably doesn't need anything at all, actually. It's pretty neat, a beautiful little Viscount for 11 grand. So, and these prices are, well, the 7,000 one's pretty hard, but the 11,000's kind of negotiable. So if you are looking for accommodation that's cheap, and all you'd need to do, these aren't registered at the moment, but they are very towable. They're registerable, and all you'd need is just to get a tag for the day to drag them to wherever you wanted. But we would like to be able to get them off the property as soon as possible. So if you want to reach out to me there for those, I'll put some, in fact, if you go to my Facebook channel, you'll find them in Marketplace, or you'll find one of them in Marketplace at any rate. In fact, you'll probably find two. We also have Cass's XT17 off-road camper that she's selling, off-road caravan. Now, I probably shouldn't tell you, but she paid like 90 grand for this, and it sat out the back here, and it's done absolutely nothing. People have slept in it maybe twice. It's driven to Canberra and back twice, or been towed to Canberra and back twice. It's maybe had 3 months worth of living in it all up. Brand spanking new. You'll pay 90 grand for one of these, or over 90 grand now. 65 for you if you want a really good caravan. And don't blame it on, don't take my word for it. Email me, carl@vofhq.com, and I'll walk out the back door and take you on a video tour of it straight away if that's what you'd like. But you'll never get better deals for that sort of a caravan. Got to tell you, it's spectacular. Really, really nice van. And you can look them up online, the XT17T, I think it is. and I'll have some more pictures for you tomorrow night. And if you want my generator, I could really do with some cash. So we're happy to sell the generator if you are at all interested. If you're close to me, I can deliver it. If you're not, you'll have to come and get it, or we're going to have to figure out a way of getting it to you. But it's heavy. It's heavy. It comes on a trolley, for the want of a better term. You'll be able to roll it around, provided you've got a floor on it. It doesn't roll on grass very well, but if you've got a floor, you'll be fine. It comes on a trolley, very easy to move. But 6 kVA, drive everything you could ever need for keeping your outdoor setup or off-grid setup running, and 14 and a half hours runtime out of a tank of juice. I've found it to be a bloody good one. All right, folks, I'm going to love you and leave you for tonight. We will have a bit of news piling through tomorrow morning, I suspect, overnight from America. Just going to have a quick glance and see what Ainsley Bullion spot price is right now, 59.66. So the price is alive. You could wake up and find it well over 60. And don't forget, people said, when it went through 50, they said, it'll go back, it'll drop back. And it did. It dropped back to 46, then jumped back through to 55, and then dropped back to 47, then jumped up to 52, then jumped back to 49, and jumped up to 55, and then it dropped back to 51. Didn't bother dropping back below 50 after that. This is 60's the same deal, folks. We're just bubbling it at the moment. I fully feel it's going to go through the roof, and when silver jumped, it went from $50 to $55 overnight. So you never know what's going to happen in the world while you sleep. I think it's probably better to have one of those little silver coins in your pocket than not. And if you're going to go and buy one, check out ainsleyBullion.com.au. Mention Voice of Freedom, mention my name, and you'll get a little discount. All you got to do, if you do it online, is write it in the notes section as you progress through on your order. Outside of that, I was lucky enough to avoid most of the dickheads on the road yesterday. There was one that was making an effort, a real effort, and I have since decided that I will put a dash cam in the little Suzuki, because I'm going to be doing a lot of driving down on the coast in the next couple of weeks, and I'm afraid it's just a target-rich environment. I'm going to share the dickheads with you, folks, and a few other things, planning a few little interesting changes, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy. And one of those, of course, is to keep giving you these. If you can win, well, you're going to win gold this time round, but when we get into draw number 6, and what have we got? We've got 118 tickets left in draw number 5. 118 left in draw number 5 to get rid of $750 or a 1 gram bar of gold. In fact, we're going to get rid of them both. What am I saying? But when we start draw number 6, we're going to throw one of these in as the prize, or the second prize, if you like. So not just the plastic, we'll even put the silver in it for you too. So that will be the second prize going forward in our off gold draws. Does that sound okay? Hope you enjoy it. Be safe on the roads, folks. The dickheads are out there. I've been dodging them.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's rock!